Hey guys, what's up? It's Alliestrasza here. So Hearthstone's newest expansion is Scholomance Academy, and woof, there are some pretty juicy cards. So I will be going over some of the new cards that have been released, mainly from the perspective of someone that plays exclusively Standard. I have been playing Hearthstone for 5 years, so I can think about the implications for Wild and Arena, but this will mostly be from someone who plays Standard. So enjoy. So I'm going to start out this review with probably one of the coolest cards that Hearthstone has ever released. Lorekeeper Polecat. It's a 4-mana 4/5 neutral legendary with the battle cry, reorder your deck from the highest cost card to the lowest cost card. Now, I just want to start off by saying that I'm really happy with Team 5 in giving us something new. I don't know if we've ever seen this kind of deck manipulation, and it's super refreshing to feel like we're going to be able to play decks in a new way, just from this card. So this kind of deck manipulation opens up a whole new world for deck building. Combo decks are probably the first thing that comes to people's minds. Being able to know what cards you're going to draw sets you up for enabling some pretty powerful combinations. But beyond enabling crazy combos, and I'll mention a few in a second, is that this card just creates so much more consistency for your deck and how it might play out. I can virtually, see almost any kind of deck playing this, and maybe I'm overreacting a little bit, but an aggro deck can drop this after the first 4 or 5 turns so that they aren't top decking useless 1-drops and 2-drops in the late game. For mid-range decks, you probably won't want to drop this on turn 4 because the point of mid-range is basically to curve out, and this would sort of be like an anti-curve. But once you get to the later turns and you know that you cap out at 8 mana cards, 9 mana, that kind of stuff, you can strategically drop this at the right time. And that's another thing that I love about this card, is that it's not brainless. You need to plan when the best time to reorder your deck is. For aggro decks, it's probably a little simpler because you aren't too top heavy usually, so it's kind of obvious when you should drop this. But for control decks, there's always that point in the game where you're on turn 8 and 9 and you just need that Dragon Queen Alliestrasza, and you top deck an Acidic Swamp Ooze, and it's just so rage inducing because it's like I have 6 cards left that that cost 8 mana or more, and any of them would be useful right now. Sorry, this situation just happened to me the other day, but anyway, you get my point. If you know when to drop this, you can build the rest of your game out for being pretty consistent, and that is so important. Now, the downside of this is, of course, the normal variance of card draw. So, you're setting up some combos with this card, say take Galakrond, the Nightmare, the Rogue Galakrond. You could try to set up a cool combo playing this right before you plan to drop Galakrond, drawing a bunch of expensive cards and making them cost 1. Now, the variance is you could have drawn your Malygos or your expensive card earlier in that game, so that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. Maybe to mitigate that natural drawing issue, like drawing your combo cards first, you play something like Plot Twist Quest Warlock, which is a pretty solid deck in Standard right now with Malygos combo. So if you had drawn your 9 mana Malygos, you could, all in the same turn, play Plot Twist, shuffle it back in, hope you don't draw it, of course, then play the Lorekeeper, and then tap for 2 mana to hopefully draw that free Alliestrasza or Malygos, that kind of thing. And in Wild, of course, you can certainly set this up for, Holy Wrath Paladin with Shrivala quite easily, as you can play this and Holy Wrath in the same turn. The variance there being that you drew Shrivala earlier and you need to shuffle it back in with Baleful Banker, but that doesn't seem too hard to do. One thing to note about Lorekeeper, though, is that its effect will be negated if other cards shuffle the library after you've played them. So with the example of prime cards, if you shuffle a prime into your deck after you've played Lorekeeper here, it reshuffles it, so the effect is gone. Or in the case of Bomb Warrior, if your opponent shuffles a bomb into your deck, that is reordering the whole deck. This is the first time that we've actually had a card to really shed light on the concept of your deck getting shuffled, because we haven't had any cards that it matters what order they're in, or we know what order they're the cards are in. I guess maybe there is the Demon Hunter card that puts something on top of your library where it would get reshuffled. But this is really the first time that, shuffling is going to be super relevant. So if you are playing this, you have to keep in mind if something like Glide, the new Demon Hunter card, reshuffles your deck. It could very well be the card that if you draw it and your opponent doesn't, it ends up completely ending the game on spot, which can certainly be problematic. So I guess, time will tell, what the impact of this card will be on the meta. But this is certainly a huge staple of Scholomance Academy and one of the coolest cards I think they've ever printed. So let me know if you can think of some crazy, combos that you could do with this card in the comments. Next up, we've got a new Demon Hunter card. It is a 3-mana 2/3 called Mage Hunter with Rush, and also the effect, whenever this attacks a minion, silence it. So my initial reaction to this card is just a sense of frustration that Demon Hunter gets every tool under the sun. I don't know if anyone else feels this way, but they've got card draw, they've got AoE, they've got healing, they can be aggressive, they can play control. Now they've got combo disruption with the new glide card. It's the class that gets everything, right? And this card is great. Its stats are a little underwhelming. A 3-mana 2/3. It's not the worst, but it's a little underwhelming. But with 2 good mechanics attached to it, so Rush and Silence. Obviously, this is the perfect answer to an Edwin Van Cleef against the Rogues. It's targetable. I can honestly see this being used in both aggressive decks and control decks. Obviously, it makes perfect sense in an aggro deck. You want to get through a taunt that's annoying you, and even, having the rush mechanic is useful too in aggro decks. But I can also see it in control decks because, having access to a silence is super useful sometimes. I suppose they already did have the silence consume magic, so it's not like this is anything too crazy and new, but having good mechanics attached to a minion can definitely be useful. Like I said, in the case of control, you could also use this to answer an early problematic aggressive minion with the 2 health. Like, say in the mirror you're facing a battle fiend, you can kill this, or silence it and get a favorable trade while you're at it. So overall, I don't have too much to say about this card other than the fact that I think it's very good. I'm sure we're going to see it a lot, and yeah, yet another good card that Demon Hunter gets. They can do it all. They have no weakness. Moving on to another new Demon Hunter card, the Demon Hunter Legendary. It is a 4-mana 4/3 with Outcast. Look at 3 cards in your opponent's hand, shuffle one of them into their deck. Just on the heels of talking about them getting everything they could possibly want. Stardust Student Stelina seems great. Seems fantastic. It does have Outcast, so, getting the ability off might make it a little bit difficult. Obviously, the first thing that comes to my mind is there is huge power in knowing what cards are in your opponent's hand, let alone being able to blink, pluck one and put it back in. But, I've been playing a lot of Magic recently, and cards that allow you to look at your opponent's hand are, typically very powerful. Now, I know this is only 3 cards, but still, being able to look at those 3 cards and kind of get a game plan of what to play around, there's huge power in knowing, what to play around in specific situations and what to expect to kind of, gear your game plan for the cards that that they have in their deck. And sometimes, you could play this at a certain point where they only have 3 cards. Like, maybe in the earlier turns or at some point, if they've drawn a bunch of cards, you won't know everything. But I could see you sometimes casting this card and being able to see their entire hand. And then, oh, perfect, they don't have the burn to kill me, or they don't have a taunt, or I don't need to play around this, that kind of thing. So, as the new legendary for Demon Hunter, this is fantastic. It is combo disruption. I feel like Blizzard was kind of stepping away from enabling crazy combos. But we'll see with more cards that are going to be released if there are going to be more combo decks. But, Demon Hunters is, making out to be the combo disruptor class with this card and Glide. So, yeah, all in all, I actually, even though I sound a little salty because Demon Hunter's getting another card, I just need to play more Demon Hunter myself. If you can't beat him, join him, right? Just in this card, though, I do like it. I do think that hand disruption is a cool thing that we don't usually see in Hearthstone very often. There were things like Dirty Rat that have appeared throughout time and things like that. But the card in itself, I like it. And guess I'm gonna have to play Demon Hunter now to play it. So next up, we've got Dr. Krasnov. So a new dual class card for Rogue and Warrior. It's a 5-mana 4/4 with Rush. When this attacks, give your weapon +1/+1. So Dr. Krasnov seems like a pretty solid card, honestly. Right now, I see him more in Warrior than Rogue, just because I think Warrior has access to better weapons that we currently know of. So right now, we've got Anchor is insane, Wrench, Caliber, or Livewire Lance, the Lackey weapon. All great weapons that we currently see in standard play, so this makes perfect sense to be an auto include in those kind of decks that play these weapons. Rogue has access to okay weapons. I still think that Waggle Pick is a great rogue weapon that we don't really see that much anymore in standard, at least. So maybe it'll come back at some point. But all in all, I mean, giving your weapon +1/+1 and the ability to buff it even more as this continues to attack is a pretty good ability. This is certainly a card that your opponent must kill or face persisted value, which could be pretty sticky. So it's a threat that needs to be answered. We saw their other dual class card, Steel Dancer. That is a 4-mana 4/4 that summons a minion equal to your weapon's attack, I believe. And I initially didn't think that card was really that great. I don't think it's that bad, but I don't really see a whole archetype being built around weapons unless it's something as powerful as something like Kingsbane. But if we get more cards like this that really can combo around this like weapon building deck, I could see obviously Dr. Krasnov would go in that, and he'll go in other decks besides a weapon deck. But maybe if there was a weapon as powerful as Kingsbane, we would see, the Steel Dancer, that kind of stuff. We've got a new little neutral common here. It's a 1-mana 1/1 with the battle cry, deal 1 damage, and the ability Spell Burst, return this to your hand. So power creep on Elven Archer. But truthfully, I don't have too much to say about this card. It sort of just feels like a filler card with the new mechanic. Typically, we see cheap 1-drops as some kind of useful ability in a zoo maybe, but I don't really see why you would run this over something else. You could make the case that, it could be a combo activator for Rogue, but lackeys are, just better than this, I think. So yeah, I'm not too impressed. It's nothing too flashy. If there is some kind of crazy ping your opponent for 1 damage 30 times and kill them, let me know, but I can't think of that, so we'll just move on. Moving on to what is probably going to be my favorite card of the entire set is Archwitch Willow. It is the new Warlock legendary. It's a 9-mana 7/7 with the battle cry, summon a random demon from your hand and deck. Now, if you guys didn't know, I have a little Archwitch Willow. My cat's name is Willow. And she has told me that, of course, this is her new favorite card from Scholomance Academy. Do you have anything to say about the card? No, you're just mad that I woke you up from your nap. Okay. So even though Archwitch Willow is probably my favorite card thematically, and I love the idea of her, I am a little bit worried that this is going to be one of those cards that I really like the idea of, but in actuality, it's not as good as I would hope. This style of Warlock is my favorite Warlock to play. So back in the days, with Defile and Voidlord, Q-Block, like slower Warlock decks that, kind of play in a control way and then have big bombs and stuff like that. That's my favorite type of Warlock to play, and this would certainly fit into that style. I think the problem right now is that there is no Voidlord in Standard. There is enhanced Dreadlord, actually, and that's probably the best target for this particular card. But there's not that many problematic demons. Now, It is a 7/7 itself, so anytime that you can drop a whole bunch of stats on the board, you know, whether that be the old Gul'dan or Master Oakheart, like those kind of cards are usually, N'Zoth, those cards are usually really good. So this would be 3 total minions on the board. And if they were really sticky like the Enhanced Dreadlord, I think it would be good. But there's not too many fantastic ones. I would have loved to have seen this at 8 mana. Maybe that would have been too good. But maybe I'm a little biased. So we'll see if some other chunky demons come out to work with this card. I could see this card, maybe if it's initially not as good, it doesn't have the tools to be as good in a slower Warlock deck at first. Maybe other demons will come out in the future and she'll get her time to shine. But I still could see her being pretty good. It just depends what kind of tools that will come out to kind of complement her, I should say. Now, there is the Warlock Prime, which would seem like a good idea to have the Prime and Archwitch Willow in the same deck. The only thing that's a little bit anti-synergistic is that, you know, the Prime's ability is to summon minions. So if you're pulling out the Prime with Willow here, you know, you kind of want the effect from the Prime, which doesn't really feel that great. But even in that case, though, sometimes you don't, it depends on the matchup and what you're playing against, but I could still see, you know, if you pull the Prime from this, you just need to win the board that turn. You know, you might not even care that much about, you know, losing the Prime's ability. It depends. I personally love this card. Like I said, it's my favorite as of right now. I hope that we get bigger, stickier demons that could combo really well with her, and we could play that control style of Warlock deck, but time will tell, and we will see. Moving on to a new Warrior Epic card. It is a 3-mana 4/3. After you play a rush minion, summon a copy with 1 health remaining. It's called Playmaker. So speaking about the card in and of itself, it seems like a really strong card. I like it that it's aggressively statted and being able to summon copies of stuff with Rush, like I can see that being very useful, so I think the card is good. I guess for, you know, my brain jumps to where will this fit into standard play? Bloodsworn Mercenary is obviously a great card, and I believe that if it has 1 health remaining, that means that it will be damaged, so it does combo with Mercenary. So I'm sure there's some cool stuff that you can do there. It seems like a great card for extra value with the Prime, Kargath Bladefist. It obviously works well with Restless Mummy. Other rush minions that I could see being cooled is the neutral Evasive Worm. The, you know, Divine Shield Untargetable seems like it could be pretty sweet. We talked about the new legendary, dual-class legendary Dr. Krasnov, which would be cool to definitely get a second copy of this. So it's cool, and I think it's good. It's just, where will it fit for extra value? You know, it might fit best in a slower Warlock build that is really just looking for extra value on, like, the Prime, summoning more Primes and stuff like that, gaining a bunch of armor, and being able to outlast your opponents. So maybe it'll fit there. Obviously, it's relatively cheap. It's 3 mana. So like I said, you know, comboing it with Restless Mummy, that's 7 mana. It's not too bad to do that. So I think it's good, and I hope that it does find a home in a standard deck, because I do think it's a pretty neat card. Moving on to the new Rogue Epic, Secret Passage. It's 1 mana, replace your hand with 5 cards from your deck, swap back next turn. As I'm doing this card review, I haven't seen all of the cards, so I hadn't seen this one yet, so I am like live reacting to this. This card's absolutely insane. Like, one of the best cards from this set for sure, if not the best. I mean, gosh, I don't know. I feel like as I'm doing this review, you know, I keep seeing more and more cards, like things are just getting nuttier and nuttier, but yeah, Secret Passage. For obvious reasons, this card is insane. Card draw is probably the most important thing in card games, right? I mean, I guess this is replacing your hand. It's not necessarily adding cards on top of it, but this allows you to just have a good turn for whatever you need. Assuming that you can make a good play with the 5 cards that you're given from your deck, right? I mean, I suppose you could always get unlucky and then be useless for the situation, but doubtful. So you can kind of craft the perfect turn, hopefully, with those 5 cards that you've been given. And there's really no downside because it's not like the cards disappear or something. They just, you swap your hand real quick, make use of whatever is given to you, and then it swaps back. So no downside, 1 mana. Maybe you had a horrible hand and you needed to curve out well. This is perfect for that. Maybe you are killing them with a burn, and there's burn in your deck. I guess there's not too much. Well, there's Eviscerate, Sinister Strike, that kind of stuff that you could set up a perfect turn. So obviously in a tempo rogue, aggressive rogue, this is great. But even in a slower rogue, I don't know why you wouldn't want to play this in every single deck. For 1 mana, have access to a whole new group of cards, and then swap back. It's insane. So this is my reaction because I'm literally just seeing it and I'm kind of dumbfounded. So let me know your guys' first reaction when you saw this, because I'm clearly taken aback. Next up, we've got a new neutral card called Wandmaker. It's a common with the battle cry, add a 1-cost spell from your class to your hand. So it's a 2 mana 2/2. This sort of just seems like it's another, filler card for the set, but even at that, it's not bad. I could actually see this being used in certain decks here and there. If in the case of Quest Shaman, where, you want a whole bunch of battle cries in your deck, having a cheap battle cry that could get you a decent shaman spell. I mean, shaman spells at 1 mana aren't that bad. I mean, there's Lightning Bolt, Earthshock, Storm's Wrath, useful stuff, I mean, it might not be perfect all the time, but to get a tick to complete your quest early on, it's not bad. I could also see this in some kind of tempo mage that, wanted to play cheap spells for Mana Cyclone, or, I don't know if the Magic Dart Frog is really that great to build a deck around. It's no Flame Waker, but still, Arcane Missiles, Ray of Frost is obviously a great card. I could maybe see you playing this in Mage. We'll see. The other class that comes to mind is also Demon Hunter. Demon Hunter's got pretty good access to 1 mana spells. It's obviously got Twin Slice, Consume Magic, Mana Burn, all pretty reasonable cards. And so if you wanted to have extra value with spells, I suppose you could play this. So I don't really know if this will be in standard decks, but it's a solid little card nonetheless. So last but certainly not least is the new neutral weapon. It's a legendary, Sphere of Sapience. At the start of your turn, look at your top card. You can put it on the bottom and lose 1 durability. So 1, I don't think we've ever had a neutral weapon before. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that's pretty cool. And 2, for those of you who play Magic, you obviously know that this is scrying. And, you guys, if you follow my channel, you know that I've started to play Magic more. And I'm so happy that the scry mechanic is coming to Hearthstone, and I don't really know why they haven't done it before. Maybe they wanted to kind of differentiate themselves from Magic or other card games, because let's be honest, this isn't a new mechanic. We've seen this before in other card games, but we kind of got a taste of scrying a little bit with the Demon card Sightless Watcher. That was, look at the top 3 cards and put 1 to put on top of your deck. So we've gotten a little taste of it before, but this is like full-blown scrying for 4 turns in a row, and every class has access to it, which is really important. I'd be kind of bummed if only 1 class could make use of this, but it's going to open up lots of options for all different kinds of decks in each class. Now, you could make the case that the Sphere is much stronger in certain classes versus others, like, Priest, Warlock, Mage don't have weapons and hero powers that allow them to break this durability. So in the case of, Rogue or Warrior, Demon Hunter, hunter, that kind of stuff. Paladin even, you probably want to keep this equipped for value, but you wouldn't have access to weapons or a hero power because you'd be losing that durability. So maybe it won't go in decks that really center around, you know, being able to attack. Like for example, Demon Hunter, you know, so many of their cards like Battle Fiend gets buffed when you attack, or the 4/2 that summons a 2/2 when you attack, like that kind of stuff. You know, maybe you wouldn't want to have this in there because you're using your hero power and attacking with your face so much. But anything that is, you know, card advantage, you want to curve out, and you really don't need access to using your face, this I think will be an auto include. All right, so that's it for me today, folks. These were the new cards that were released on July 24th. There's going to probably be more tomorrow, and I know that I haven't gone over some earlier ones, but there were a lot of crazy cards in this one that I just wanted to get out and talk about, so I hope you enjoy this review. I will probably go back and talk about some other ones that have been released earlier, maybe towards the end of the set, talk about the ones that I think will be really impactful, but I hope you enjoyed me reviewing these ones that came out today. As always, like the video, subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed the content, and let me know what you think or what you thought of my review. And I hope you have a good day. All right, bye.